On my hand here is the Sony 135mm GM lens. This is the F1.8 and really a very impressive piece of glass by Sony itself. I'm Richard and welcome to ZP Productions, and on my hand here is the Sony F1.8 GM lens or G Master lens. Now, I'm a portrait photographer and this 135mm lens is totally meant for portraiture. It is a short telephoto and it gives you a very nice compression for your subject itself. Now, I have this lens for 1.5 weeks because this lens is on loan to me by Sony Singapore. I'd like to thank SLR Revolution for hooking me up with them and obtaining this demo copy here. Now, this 135mm f1.8 G Master lens is probably one of the best optical quality lens I have ever tried. It is very good, optically very sharp, very nice, and very low in terms of chromatic aberrations. So let's move on to my usual review: build quality, autofocus, and then image quality. Now, in terms of build quality, this lens have two rings. So there is one aperture ring and then there is one, focusing ring here. Now, this is a focus by wire lens, so there is actually no sort of resistance or hard points to it. It's just a very smooth ring. Not the smoothest ring though, but overall, this is what is expected out of a mirrorless lens itself. Now, there are two buttons here, and this can be programmed to AF lock or whatever functions, and total of 3 switches. One controlling AF MF as usual, the other controlling, in terms of its focal distance. Do you want full focal distance or long to very long? And then lastly, there is a declicking switch here where you can actually declick the aperture ring, as you can hear now. So overall, I think this lens is very well built. Now, this is also a weather sealed lens and it comes with a hood. Now, this hood, the nice thing is Sony made the hood with the rubber lining in front, very similar to telephoto lens. So you can actually rest the hood and the camera and the lens, everything on the table itself. This hood is also a lock that requires a button press, so it doesn't dislodge easily. And overall, I really like the design of the Sony hood. And it also has an internal felt lining, very premium of a hood if you ask me. Overall, I think the build quality of the 135mm and together with the hood itself is a fantastic piece of kit. Now, when it comes to autofocus, I don't have a subject running towards me, so what I did was I aimed at an indoor subject with a high ISO on my Alpha 1 and I moved towards the subject at 20 frames per second. You can see in these 80 shots here, I can tell you that, no, I can't show you actually shot by shot, but I can tell you that these 80 shots, I think only about 4 or 5 were a little bit soft, but if not, all the other shots were very tech sharp. What I did was I put the autofocus right in the center and I moved towards the subject, and anything in the center will be sharp except for like 3 or 4 photos like this. It's a little bit soft, but still probably usable if you need them. The performance on the autofocus for the 135mm, especially in moving forward in such a case, which is probably one of the harder autofocus situations, especially in close distance, the 135mm do a very fantastic job. Then I also tried randomly aiming stuff in my place, in my house, close distance or further distance, and you can see that out of these 5 shots that I tried, which I just snap around, I just focus, snap, all of them were sharp. So very impressive performance when it comes to autofocus. Of course, you have to thank the Alpha 1 too, because Alpha 1 is probably the best autofocus lens on Sony range now, but together the 135mm GM, it is fast, it is extremely accurate. Now, in real world, I don't have any videos to show you, but I can tell you that when I did my photo shoots, I did 4 photo shoots with this particular lens. I'll tell you that there is no shot that is soft with this lens itself. It is always on point, on the focus point. The only time where it doesn't feel right is when the Alpha 1 decides that it needs to focus on the eyelash or the hair in front of the eye. But if not, if I am putting the focus point on a position, it will always focus on something within that position itself. Overall, very good performance for the autofocus itself, especially for portraiture. Now, if you can do a forward movement test like I did just now, I don't think it'll be a problem shooting subjects that are moving laterally or just moving forward and backwards slightly. More extensive test is probably needed because people who buy this lens will probably also use it for things like indoor sports and stuff, and I don't have access to them. So probably you can go online and search some other review on autofocus for such situation itself. And lastly, I talk about image quality. Now, image quality of this 135mm GM is very impressive. I'll tell you that wide open is extremely sharp, be it in the center or at the corners themselves. Everything is sharp and very usable. It is slightly better in optics than the Sigma here. And when it comes to night shots, when I did it to try chromatic aberrations and also to see chroma for the lens, it performs very well. I mean, there is almost no chromatic aberration on the LED tubes that you can see, or the fluorescent tubes, I'm not very sure. Usually when the lenses are shot in nighttime and there are fluorescent tubes, normally they will result in a little bit of chromatic aberration. This lens do not have any of them. One of the best performance, in fact I can count with one hand the number of lenses that doesn't have such an issue that I have tested so far, which is like 20-30 lenses. And then in terms of chroma, there is also no chroma at the the point lights at the right side of the frame. Was it left side? Left side of the frame in the photo itself, there is no chroma, you can see here. Overall, very impressive performance in terms of chromatic aberration and chroma from this lens itself. And and lastly, of course, how does it perform in real-world shooting as a portrait lens? I did 4 photo shoots with this particular lens here, and I can show you some of the photos here. Just to note that, out of these 4 photo shoots, 3 are cosplay shoots, because that's usually what I do for a hobby, and I can use the photos. And I can show you that every one of them are very sharp, very well defined, and overall, very usable and very nice. And the rendering of this lens also, in terms of its bokeh, is also quite good. As you can see here, the bokeh is not distracting. There are, of course, some distractingness if you are looking at maybe trees and stuff, but overall, it is quite nice and quite pleasing. Definitely one of the most pleasing lens in terms of bokeh and rendition, if you ask me. Now, the 135mm G Master, optically, as you can see so far, is a fantastic piece of glass. And the price tag also, follows it. It is $2,100 USD, making it one of the more expensive lenses in the market. Of course, not as expensive as some of the later Canon lenses. I mean, just look at the Canon 85 1.2 or the 50 1.2, which is the same price as this, and the latest Sony 50 1.2 is also very close to this lens. So 2.1K now is quite a standard price for high-end prime lens. So how do I put this? If you are looking for the best autofocus lens, a short telephoto for purpose of portrait, and you are in the Sony system, I'll recommend this lens over the Sony 85 1.4 GM, which I tried before. I don't think it's very nice. And if you compare to the Sigma lenses, I will just say very simply, this lens is optically slightly better than them, and also its autofocus is also slightly better than them, be it the 135 Sigma here I have, or the 85 DGDN 1.4. I will say this Sony lens is better than both of them, at the cost of the price of both of them added together. I mean, the new Sigma 1.4 DGDN and the Sigma 135 here add together will probably be the same price as this Sony 135 GM, and that is how costly this lens is. But if you can afford it and you can purchase it, I would say you won't regret it, because for a short telephoto lens, I think this is one of the best you can get on the Sony system, and it resolves the Alpha 1 very well and also works with the Alpha 1 autofocus system very well itself. And that's about it for today. This is a short review because I only have this lens for 1.5 weeks. I just want to share you my thoughts and know, after shooting 4 photo shoots, how do I feel about the lens itself. Will I buy this lens one day? Maybe. It depends on how much I want to use 135mm, because I have to honestly say that 135mm is a range that I don't touch as often. I felt that it was not long enough. If I really want the very compressed look, I would prefer 200mm. Or if I want a general short telephoto portrait, I would usually go for 105 or 85, which is, if you ask me, more usable than 135. So it's somewhere in between, and personally, I still will use this lens if I have it, but now that if I want to purchase one, I have to consider whether will I use it enough compared to 105, 85, or even a 200mm. That's some consideration I have. That's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time again in my next review. Now, do leave comments below because I love to reply to them, and do like and subscribe if you like my videos and want to see more reviews in the future. That's about it, and I hope you enjoy this. Bye-bye.